take the floor.
They can't say QCC.
I'm sure, contrary to what Mary tried to paint it as, I also don't want gay people to feel like their religion hates them. I also don't want somebody to grow up in a world where they feel like they have to choose between their faith and their sexuality. I don't think that's the choice we're making in this debate. What we're trying to say is, what should the Catholic Church do, and what do you want from the Church? It shouldn't be that gay people should find recognition in a lie. It should be that gay people should find recognition in what's already in the text. But not just that. It should come from their peers in the Church. It should come from the priests in their local parish. It should come from some sort of Vatican III, where people come together and actually decide that there is a basis for this. There is not a lie that we have to construct. And when Myrne says, oh, we're getting a trump card, she also says that, we almost need to delete other documents. We have to do that anyway. We already have to decide in interpreting what is more important. And we believe that if you're actually going to get continuous reform in the Catholic Church, because the Church has lots of problems. There's lots of things it doesn't do well that all of you in this room can think of that you don't agree with. I'm sure you could write a very long list. It can't just fabricate a document every time. It cannot just decide to renew and change the laws every time it needs to change. This is the grand opportunity for the Church to decide that what it needs is a discussion, not some fabrication. What it needs is to look at this 21st century and reflect. What it needs is some open world whereby we have a transparent world where the Church does look at the world and it does find those bits in the Bible that are far more important, that do give rights to people. Because what happens when you have somebody who's transgender? What happens when you have something to do with condoms? Can the Church truly gain more members, which I think we all agree on? We all want the Catholic Church to have more members, I suppose, in this fabricated debate. For it to really do that, for it to really become a 21st century church, does it need to reform or does it need to fabricate? What I'm going to tell you is that it needs to reform. My first point is interpretation, not rigid adherence. No, thank you. My second point is what a lot of Mark told you about in terms of moral guides, in terms of what we want the church to be is some CC part in a compass that people can edge towards and choose and adapt to, and that they'll try to adapt to them. And that's what we've come here to tell you about, that we seize this opportunity. Okay, no thank you. We believe that the church has to stop just lying to people. The church has to stop saying that we need to lie to change the world, that we need to lie to adapt. And the church has to recognise the theologians in this world that say there is a basis in the texts for people to be gay. That there is a basis for this already. We think that where does reform actually come from? You talked about this top-down nature, but the Catholic priest and your parish priest needs to be convinced too. Is he necessarily going to be convinced by a document suddenly appearing like a WikiLeaks or something? Dead Sea Scrolls, I've found this in my travels. Is he necessarily going to believe that? Or does he want people to look at is recognise the situation that we have at the moment? Recognise that we need to look at the documents that we have and find ground within the faith that he already believes in. Find ground in the love thy neighbour. Find ground in accepting other people. No, thank you, John. We think that what actual continuous change then needs is for him to find that in multiple respects. He needs to find that maybe there is a basis for condoms in the sense that what the church says about life maybe doesn't necessarily apply anymore. This is what Mark was telling you. In the sense that we need to adapt based on what we know and not what we should fabricate. And Miriam said, why is this a worse change? Why shouldn't we have this trump card? No, thank you. It's because we're no longer rigidly adhering to a text. We're accepting that the church is actually about an interpretation. And Gus said this. What is the parish priest in every homily, if not the interpreter of the text in front of you? What is he not if the person who cannot decide this for himself? Actually, I'll take opening.
Okay, the whole point we're trying to make is that, look, the Levitical and Deuteronomical law codes were cast
want homosexual rights. But what we want to do is secure explicitly that right.
Like, I really don't understand this basis that you need to impose something upon the people in order to cure it. I think the Catholic Church, if what we are here, like, wants to be an adaptive church. Like, Mirren, oddly enough, was like saying that, oh, they don't want to change. I think this motion imposes, like, it's not like we're trying to slip this into the church. Like, it's the church themselves presumably trying to fabricate this document. It's the church themselves deciding to change. I think that's already implicit, I suppose, in the motion. But we think that, like, John's saying that we need to balance we need some sort of tipping point against the other parts of the Bible. No, we don't. Like, we have our own morality in order to provide a tipping point against that, and we have other bases in the text that we already prioritise. Like, how many people really should prioritise minor bits of Leviticus? And how many people should really prioritise what's core to the Bible? Like things like the Golden Rules and, like, Moses' things, the commandments, those. No, thank you. I'd also like to talk about my second point on moral guide. We think that in this world, and this is quite important, I think, nobody really subscribes 100% to anything, nor should they, in Ireland or in anywhere. We don't like this fanatical adherence to a text. We think that what the Catholic Church should actually try to be is that moral guide. And for it to be actually that type of moral guide, it has to do a bit of soul searching, not just some fabrication. It has to do looking inside what it believes itself and try to adapt itself from within. And whether it's what First Prop said about the Pope, or whether it's what we say in terms of like a grand discussion and a far greater debate, not just maybe the Pope deciding, because we also maybe think that Pope just deciding is a bit authoritarian anyway. We think that like what we actually need is the church to be a type of moral guide that tries to reflect what people want and that people can buy into and adapt to. We think that it's not right for people to decide in a religion that they need to adhere to every specific aspect of it. We think it's right that we encourage people to have a debate about what religion means to them, and that when they go to church, there's a constant, everlasting debate, and that there shouldn't just be some authoritarian document that decides everything for us. Because that authoritarian document will never decide anything for us. There's never enough authoritarian documents to decide every issue of morality in our world. That can never take place. What we have is a core basis of the Catholic Church within the Bible, and that's probably what we should look for and adapt to. If you really want to convince everyone in this audience, everybody who's so dissatisfied with the church, what would you rather have happen? Would you rather that the church looks inside the core beliefs and decides that it needs to change based on its own morals, or it needs to fabricate new ones? We say that lies make baby Jesus cry. And morals should come from within. I beg you, Joe.